Okay everyone, in this video I'm going to discuss multiplying fractions. So when we consider our multiplication, we're going to multiply the numerator terms together and we multiply the denominator terms together, and we just do that across all of the fractions in our multiplication. So for example, if we think about the multiplication 1 over 2, so 1/2 times 1 over 2, 1/2, we would multiply the numerator terms together, so we get 1 times 1. And then we multiply the denominator terms together, we get 2 times 2, that will be on the bottom. 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, so 1/2 times 1/2 is equal to 1/4. And this makes sense. We can see this graphically if we like. So if we take a circle and we take 1/2 of a circle, so one part if we divide our circle into 2, it's like this. If we consider 1/2 of this half, so 1/2 times 1/2, that would be like this green section here, which is 1/4 of the whole circle. All right, let's consider a second example. Let's consider 2 over 3 times 6 over 5. Again, I'm just going to multiply those numerator terms together. So 2 times 6 on the top. The denominator will be 3 times 5, and that's equal to, well, 2 times 6 is 12, over 3 times 5 is 15. Now we can simplify this fraction if we want. In order to simplify, I'm going to think about the factors of our numerator and denominator. So 12 is equal to 3 times 4 and 15 is equal to 3 times 5. So that means I can actually rewrite this fraction as 3 times 4 over 3 times 5. And hopefully you can see that we have some common factors there that will cancel out. So those 3's will cancel out since, well, 3 over 3 is just equal to 1. So actually we see that 12 over 15 can be rewritten as 4 over 5. So this, for me at least, is a more elegant way of writing this solution to this multiplication. All right, let's think about a more complicated example. Let's think about 2a over 3 times 1 minus b over 4. Again, I'm just going to multiply those numerators together. So 2a times 1 minus b. I'm going to put 1 minus b in parentheses just to make it clear what's going on here. And then divided by 3 times 4. So with the numerator, I can then just open those brackets out if I want. So it'll be 2a times 1, then 2a times negative b, so minus 2ab. And then on the bottom will be 12. Now, because 12 here is equal to 6 times 2, so I can rewrite the denominator as 6 times 2, you see every term in my fraction here on the denominator and on the numerator, they have a factor of 2. So that means that 2 can just cancel out. And so we see that this fraction is actually equal to a minus ab over 6. And I can, if I want to as well, also just factor out the a on the top that's common to both terms. So I can rewrite this whole thing as a, open brackets, 1 minus b over 6. And I find that final answer there really the most elegant way to express this fraction. Now, one last insight that I'll talk about that can be helpful is that a whole number or a whole term, so something that's not a fraction, we can express it as a fraction if we put it over 1. So something like 6, or just if we have a variable like x, we can rewrite these terms as 6 over 1 and x over 1. That's perfectly fine. And being able to rewrite them this way can sometimes help us apply our rule. So for instance, if we had something like 3 times 2 over 5, well, we could rewrite 3 as 3 over 1, and so we can rewrite this multiplication as 3 over 1 times 2 over 5, and then it's really clear how to apply our rule here. Our numerator would be 3 times 2 is 6, and our denominator 1 times 5 is 5. So hopefully multiplying fractions for you is pretty straightforward. In this video, we have seen some important stuff though. We've seen factorization, for instance here, when we took out the variable a from a minus ab. And I went through factors in one of the previous videos in this series, if you remember that. The other important idea that we see is here, the notion of equivalent fractions. I haven't talked about equivalent fractions yet, but equivalent fractions are fractions that have the same value. So in the next video in this course, it will be on adding and subtracting fractions. So we will think about factors more in that video, and also we'll talk about equivalent fractions in more detail then as well. But that's really it for this video on multiplying fractions. Thank you so much for looking at this video, which is part of my course on basic math skills for beginner economists. A reminder that you can purchase the notes associated with this course from the shopping banner below. The notes include written summaries and lots of practice questions and answers. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great one.